How many of you have had the experience of growing cherry tomatoes and at the end of the season you have so many tomatoes you can't even fathom what to do with all of them? Cherry tomatoes are notoriously overproductive, and if you're like me and hate to let anything go to waste, I wanted to share with you today my favorite way to use up a bunch of cherry tomatoes at the end of the season. The recipe I'm going to share with you today is roasted cherry tomatoes with Italian herbs, and I will include the recipe in the description below. Start by halving your tomatoes. You can certainly use any type of tomatoes for this, just cut them into smallish chunks. I do find that cherry and grape tomatoes in particular roast really nicely. I think it's likely due to the lower water content and the higher sugars in those types of tomatoes. The tomatoes that I'm using here are a variety called Midnight Snacks, and these are one of my absolute favorites, both for fresh eating and they are excellent roasted. Next, chop your garlic. Now, if you're one of those folks who reads a recipe that says 1 to 2 cloves of garlic and immediately changes that to 1 to 2 heads of garlic, have at it. I don't think you can over garlic this recipe, and you're certainly welcome to throw plenty of garlic in here. Now for the herbs. I like to use whatever I have on hand fresh from the garden, and that typically includes things like thyme, rosemary, parsley, basil, and oregano, if my dog will let me have any. But dried herbs are equally good in this recipe. Today I'm using a combination of garden fresh herbs and dried herbs, and specifically this is Jane's Italian seasoning from Rosebud's Real Food, and it does contain most of those herbs that I just mentioned. Add salt to taste and then a few glugs of good olive oil. Now I'm estimating in the recipe that this is 1/4 cup because I never actually measure anything, but basically you just want enough oil to coat everything really nicely. And then you're going to mix this all up. Pop the pan into a preheated 350-degree Fahrenheit oven. Now don't mind my 1,000-year-old oven here that I can never get fully cleaned. And then you're going to roast for 40 minutes to start with. I like to stir this periodically about once every 20 minutes, and that's just to keep the tomatoes on the top from getting too brown. And when this is finished, you want the majority of the liquid to be cooked off. So if your mix is still really liquidy after that 40 minutes, just pop it back in the oven and check on it once every 10 minutes or so until it's the right consistency. So this is the end result, a baking dish full of intense tomatoey goodness. Now I will typically either spoon this into pint jars and pressure can it. I've also frozen them in the pint jars, but honestly that's only if I can stop myself from eating the entire batch straight out of the baking dish with a spoon. So good. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have a favorite way to preserve your tomatoes at the end of the growing season, drop a line in the comments below and let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.